makes a parent? For most of human history, the answer seems simple: biology. But beneath the surface of our most basic human function, reproduction, lies a complex web of desire, desperation, and reinvention. What do a medieval queen, a Roman pope, and a Japanese samurai have in common? They all redefined what it meant to be a parent, long before IVF, surrogacy, or modern adoption. This isn't just a history of birth. It's the secret story of what happens when birth fails. I'm going to take you on a journey across 12 centuries, through royal bedchambers and hidden laboratories, where the inability to conceive wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was often a matter of dynasty, legacy, and survival. Throughout history, those who couldn't bear children were rarely met with compassion. They were cursed, abandoned, experimented upon. And yet, from this suffering emerged revolutionary ideas about what makes a family. This is the untold history of humanity's oldest struggle and its most creative solution. When biology fails. Aachen, Holy Roman Empire, 814 CE. Aachen, 814 CE. The palace chambers of Empress Judith of Bavaria echo with her sobs. For 6 years, she has failed to give Emperor Louis the Pious an heir. 6 years of whispers, of sidelong glances, of prayers unanswered. Each month brings the same disappointment, marked by blood on linen. In this world, a barren woman is worse than useless. She's cursed. And Judith knows her time is running out. At night, beneath a waxing moon, Judith sends her most trusted handmaiden to the Jewish quarter of Aachen. The girl returns with a small leather pouch filled with herbs, silphium, pennyroyal, wild carrot seed. These aren't just any plants. They're from a lineage of knowledge stretching back to Rome, preserved in texts the church has all but erased. Women's knowledge, passed in whispers from mother to daughter. For 3 cycles of the moon, Judith drinks the bitter brew. And when her courses don't come for a 4th month, she waits. 5 months. 6. By the 7th, her belly swells visibly beneath her robes. The court erupts with rumors. Some say she's bewitched the emperor. Others claim she's taken a lover. But when she delivers a healthy boy, the future Charles the Bald, no one can deny her triumph. Within months, palace scribes begin documenting the herbs in Judith's mixture. Secretly, noble women across Europe seek similar treatments. The monasteries may control official medicine, but Judith has sparked a quiet revolution in women's reproductive knowledge, one that will burn underground for centuries. And yet, even as her son grows strong, the whispers never truly fade. The word barren follows Judith like a shadow, because once fertility becomes a tool of power, it also becomes a weapon. Bologna, Italy, 1231. Bologna, Italy, 1231. The greatest legal minds of Europe gather in this university town. But today they face an unprecedented case. A merchant's wife stands before the ecclesiastical court. She wants an annulment, not because her husband is cruel or unfaithful, but because he cannot give her children. "I have been a faithful wife for 7 years," she testifies. "I have submitted to my husband's attentions regularly. Yet God has not blessed us with offspring. My examination by midwives confirms I am without impediment. The failure lies with him." The court erupts. This is unheard of. A woman publicly declaring her husband's reproductive failure? Canon lawyer Giovanni de Parma rises. his voice barely containing his discomfort. The Church recognizes impotence as grounds for annulment, as the marital debt cannot be paid. But sterility, a man may perform his duties yet not bear fruit. This is God's will, not grounds for dissolution. But the woman is prepared. She argues that marriage exists for procreation, and a sterile union denies her the chance to fulfill Eve's purpose to be fruitful and multiply. For the first time in European legal history, infertility is being classified separately from impotence. Giovanni de Parma, after weeks of deliberation, makes his ruling. The marriage stands, but a precedent is set. This case does something revolutionary. It transforms reproductive failure from a divine punishment into a medical condition. Something that can be studied, classified, perhaps even treated. And across Europe, physicians begin quietly documenting cases of infertility, setting the stage for the first medical approaches to conception. The secrets of the bedroom are becoming a matter of scientific inquiry. Bursa, Ottoman Empire, 1395. Bursa, the first capital of the Ottoman Empire, 1395. Behind the ornate screens of the imperial harem, a dangerous drama unfolds. Sultan Bayezid I has many wives, but his favorite consort, Devlet Hatun, has failed to conceive after 3 years of sharing his bed. In this world, a sultan's line must continue. His power depends on sons. In the shadowed corners of the harem, Devlet makes a desperate bargain with a young concubine named Gulbahar. The arrangement is simple but dangerous. Gulbahar will lie with the sultan and conceive his child. Meanwhile, Devlet will fake a pregnancy. For 9 months, the deception continues. Devlet wears increasingly padded garments, complains of sickness in the mornings, and restricts visitors. Meanwhile, Gulbahar is hidden away, her growing belly concealed from all but a trusted physician. When Gulbahar delivers a healthy boy, he is smuggled immediately to Devlet's chambers. Within hours, Devlet announces she has given birth to the Sultan's son. She names him Mehmed. No one questions the miracle, at least not openly. And Gulbahar? She receives gold, jewels, and a promise that her own children will be favored in the future. What none of them realize is that this child, born of history's first documented royal surrogacy, will one day become Mehmed I, restorer of the Ottoman Empire after Timur's devastating invasion. This secret practice, never acknowledged in official records, spreads quietly through royal courts from the Ottoman Empire to the Mughal dynasties of India. Blood matters, but bloodlines can be managed, manipulated, maintained through silent agreements between women. And so a pattern emerges. When fertility fails, human ingenuity finds a way. Not through magic or medicine, but through something much more powerful: social invention, experimentation and exploitation. Paris, France, 1667. Paris, 1667. The scientific revolution is transforming Europe. In a cramped laboratory near the Seine, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Denis bends over his latest subject, not to save a life, but to create one. Denis has already shocked Europe with his animal blood transfusions. But today, he pursues a different kind of transfer altogether: the vital essence of man. Denis writes in his private journals, may be separated from the act of passion and transferred mechanically to remedy barrenness. The Marquis de Lafayette and his wife have been childless for 11 years. Their desperation has led them here, to this strange new frontier of reproduction. Reproduction. Dennis's procedure is brutal, primitive, and painful. Using a modified version of his transfusion equipment, he attempts to collect seminal fluid from a virile donor. A young stable hand paid handsomely for his contribution and inject it into the Marquis. The theory that the Marquis's body would absorb this potent essence and transfer it naturally to his wife during marital relations. It doesn't work, of course. The Marquis never conceives. But Dennis's bizarre experiment represents something profound. It doesn't work, of course. The Marquis never conceives. But Dennis's bizarre experiment represents something profound. The first documented attempt to separate fertility from intimacy. Though dismissed as quackery, Dennis's work plants a seed. For the first time, reproduction is being viewed as a mechanical process that might be manipulated. 2 centuries will pass before artificial insemination succeeds in humans, but the conceptual foundation is laid here, in this dimly lit Parisian laboratory. While European scientists fumble with syringes and theories, across the world, a completely different approach to family formation is taking shape. One that bypasses biology entirely. Edo, Japan, 1701. Edo, Japan, 1701. The sakura are in bloom, and Takeda Nobuhiro, an aging samurai, faces the end of his bloodline. After 3 marriages and countless prayers at fertility shrines, he remains without a son. In Europe, this would mean disgrace, the end of a noble house. But in Tokugawa, Japan, Nobuhiro has an honorable solution. At a solemn ceremony, Nobuhiro adopts Miyamoto Kenjiro, not a child, but a 22-year-old samurai from a lesser family. Kenjiro takes Nobuhiro's family name, inherits his estate, and most importantly, carries on his martial legacy. This isn't a rare occurrence. During this period, an astonishing 70% of samurai families adopted adult males to continue their line. This isn't about compassion for orphans. It's about something more pragmatic: institutional continuity. Bloodlines matter, but what matters more is preserving the skills, the property, and the social position of the family. Nature may fail, but culture won't. This practice reshapes how Japan views family to this day. Modern Japanese corporations still adopt promising executives regardless of blood connection. The CEO of Suzuki was adopted into the family business. So was the head of Toyota. While Japan perfects strategic adoption, across the ocean, a new nation wrestles with its own crisis of parentless children and childless homes. New York to the American Midwest, 1851. New York City, 1851. The streets teem with children, dirty, hungry, abandoned. Irish immigration and rapid urbanization have created an unprecedented crisis of orphaned and neglected youth. Into this chaos steps Charles Loring Brace, a minister with a radical solution. Send these children west, to the expanding frontier where labor is scarce and families need helping hands. They called them orphan trains, though many of these children weren't orphans at all, just desperately poor, or temporarily abandoned by parents who couldn't feed them. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children would be shipped from eastern cities to Midwestern farms. At each stop, they would be lined up on station platforms, sometimes even on auction blocks, for local families to inspect. This one has strong arms. A farmer might say, selecting a boy. She looks like she can cook, says a woman, choosing a girl. These weren't adoptions as we understand them today. They were transactions, often with no legal paperwork, no follow-up, no protection. Some children found loving homes. Many more found only hard labor. All found themselves severed from their origins, their stories erased. Brace called it a placing out system and believed sincerely he was saving these children from poverty and vice. In his writings, he celebrated the transformation of useless street urchins into productive citizens. But as reports of abuse filtered back east, a new consciousness emerged. By the early 1900s, the first professional social workers began arguing that children deserved more than just a roof and work. They deserved protection, vetting, follow-up. From this troubling experiment emerged the first modern adoption laws, regulations requiring home studies, trial periods, and legal oversight. The orphan trains had revealed a dark truth. When children become commodities, exploitation inevitably follows. Yet the worst exploitation of all was still to come, when reproductive science collided with humanity's darkest ideology. Darkness and Light. Berlin, Germany, 1935. Berlin, 1935. The Third Reich is ascendant, and Dr. Karl Klauberg has caught Heinrich Himmler's attention with a chilling proposal. Use the concentration camps to advance reproductive science. Klauberg's mission is twofold. Develop methods to reverse infertility in racially valuable German women, and perfect sterilization techniques for those deemed unworthy of reproduction. In his private Berlin clinic, Klauberg treats the wives of SS officers with hormone injections and surgical procedures. Meanwhile, in Block 10 of Auschwitz, he conducts brutal experiments on Jewish and Roma women without anesthesia, consent, or human decency. Klauberg's methods are primitive and excruciating. He injects caustic substances into women's reproductive organs to cause scarring and permanent sterility. The procedures are recorded with cold precision. Success is measured by how quickly and cheaply a woman can be rendered barren. When Allied forces liberate the camps in 1945, Klauberg's research is discovered among thousands of medical atrocities. At the Nuremberg trials, the world confronts not just the horror of genocide, but the perversion of medicine itself. From this darkness emerges the Helsinki Declaration of 1964, humanity's promise that medical research will never again proceed without informed consent. Every modern fertility treatment, every reproductive technology developed since bears the invisible watermark of this pledge. For centuries, fertility has been a battleground for power. But in the aftermath of war, something shifts. A new question emerges. What if reproduction could be guided not by power, but by compassion? Not by ideology, but by choice? Oldham, England, 1978. Oldham, England, July 25, 1978. Leslie Brown cradles her newborn daughter, Louise. The baby is perfectly ordinary in every way but one. She is the first human ever conceived outside the human body. After 9 years of failed pregnancies and crushed hopes, Leslie and her husband John had volunteered for an experimental procedure developed by doctors Robert Edwards and Patrick Steptoe, in vitro fertilization. The process was revolutionary but conceptually simple. Retrieve an egg, fertilize it in the laboratory, then implant the developing embryo back into the womb. After 104 previous attempts with other patients, baby Louise represented the first success. The world erupts in debate. Religious leaders condemn the procedure as playing God. Ethicists worry about a slippery slope. Meanwhile, thousands of infertile couples see something else entirely: hope. What few in the West realize is that Soviet scientists had achieved similar results years earlier, but lacking funding and facing political suspicion, their research was abandoned. Science, like fertility itself, requires the right conditions to flourish. Louise Brown's birth changes everything. Within a decade, IVF clinics open worldwide. By 2000, hundreds of thousands of test tube babies have been born. What was once miraculous becomes nearly routine. For the first time in human history, infertility isn't a sentence. It's a condition with treatment options. The stigma doesn't disappear overnight, but it begins to shift. Unable becomes unstoppable. But as with every reproductive revolution, new possibilities create new exploitations. As the technology spreads globally, so too does inequality of access and darker markets emerge. Hyderabad, India, 2001. Hyderabad, India, 2001. Dr. Kamala Selvaraj, one of India's pioneering IVF specialists, surveys her gleaming new clinic. India is positioning itself as a global hub for fertility tourism, offering world-class treatment at a fraction of Western prices. For $5,000, compared to $15,000 in America, couples from around the world can access IVF. Better yet, surrogacy costs just $20,000, whereas in California, the same service might cost $100,000. But beneath the medical tourism boom, a shadow industry flourishes. In unlicensed clinics on the city's outskirts, poor women are recruited as egg donors and surrogates, often without fully understanding the procedures or risks. They are told they are helping childless couples. They are offered sums that exceed a year's income. What many aren't told is how the hormones might affect them, or that their eggs might be harvested repeatedly until their fertility is compromised. By 2008, international pressure forces regulatory changes. India eventually bans commercial surrogacy for foreign couples entirely. The market doesn't disappear, it simply shifts to Cambodia, Laos, Ukraine, wherever regulations are lax and women are vulnerable. This creates a troubling pattern. Reproductive technology follows the path of least resistance, flowing like water around ethical barriers, finding wherever women's bodies are least protected by law. And yet, parallel to this exploitation runs another story, one of revolutionary inclusion, as reproductive technology begins to redefine who can become a parent. San Francisco, USA 2020. San Francisco, 2020. Dr. Amy Ivazada, known to her patients as the Egg Whisperer, reviews her appointment calendar. 25% of her clients are LGBTQ plus couples and individuals. For same-sex couples, single parents by choice, and transgender individuals, reproductive technology isn't just a medical treatment. It's the gateway to family formation that was historically impossible. The technological options multiply. Reciprocal IVF allows one woman to provide the egg while her partner carries the pregnancy. Gestational surrogacy enables gay men to have genetically related children. Sperm and egg freezing give transgender individuals the chance to preserve fertility before transition. Meanwhile, adoption, once the primary path to parenthood for LGBTQ plus individuals, undergoes its own revolution. By 2020, same-sex couples can legally adopt in all 50 states. Globally, the picture is more complex, but a clear trend emerges. Family formation is increasingly separated from traditional reproductive biology, and science pushes forward. uterus transplants moved from experimental to achievable. Three-parent embryos offer solutions for certain genetic conditions. Research into artificial gametes suggests a future where any cell might be transformed into a reproductive one. The tools have changed from Judith's herbs to CRISPR gene editing, but the fundamental human desire remains constant: to create family, to leave legacy, to participate in the oldest human project, continuity. From royal wombs to black market babies, fertility has never just been about reproduction. It's always been about power, legacy, and survival. For centuries, those who couldn't conceive were at the mercy of nature, custom, and often cruel judgments. But human ingenuity, born of desperation and desire, continually reinvented what family could mean. Adoption, surrogacy, IVF. Each innovation expanded the definition of parenthood beyond biology. Today, as technology outpaces biology, the question isn't who can become a parent anymore. It's how many new ways we can invent it. Families form through love, law, and laboratory, not just through blood. This secret history reveals our most human truth. When nature says no, humanity finds another way. Because the drive to nurture, to connect, to continue ourselves beyond our own lifetimes isn't just biological. It's the essence of being human. The most remarkable thing about parenthood isn't how we achieve it. It's that through 12 centuries and countless obstacles, we never stopped trying to find our way to it.